So again, we go live here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm playing with the idea of when do we start the pre-show before that? Do we start the pre-show right at 2 and let people kind of join on during the pre-show? And so I'm just kind of testing things out here. Today we tried going live right at 2 and then having a little bit of a pre-show. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily the way I like to do it or the way I want to be doing this in the future. But if you want to join our live broadcast, simply head on over to yourpodcastguru.com/live. And again, that happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we've been doing a lot, I've been doing a lot of interviews here. And so like this last week, we didn't go live on Tuesday because I had an interview scheduled for later in the week. And I have several more interviews scheduled here throughout this next month. I have at least another 4 interviews scheduled throughout this next month. But what I think I'm going to be doing, because I've kind of been missing just jumping on and teaching simply about podcasting and how you can actually use a podcast to grow your business, that I think we're going to stick to either have the interview right away on Tuesday at the normal scheduled time, or you're going to get just simply a bonus live stream episode. And I'll tell you a little bit of when we dive into that actually goes into some of the content, how we're going to be transitioning and using everything here in the future, and how I plan to use all of this here at The Power of Podcasting. So let's jump on in and get started with the live show. So hello and welcome to The Power of Podcasting. My name is Nick Palkowski, and I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And today we're going to talk all about, does podcasting still matter? Is this something that you should be paying attention to? Or now with all of the live video and just video in general, has audio podcasting become irrelevant? Should it be something that you don't focus on? Well, I have some strong opinions about this, and we're going to dive into that here on this episode. And I am really excited to be talking to you all about how podcasting might actually fit into your business. Well, to kind of spoil the ending here for you, my big answer is yes. I think podcasting still does play a role in your business. It still has a prominent spot. It still is extremely useful, and we're going to dive into a few of the reasons here in this episode. So let's dive on in right away with one of the very first one is very simply that audio has a long history. This goes way back to the days of actually sitting around a campfire and telling stories. But audio in some way, shape, or form has been here for a long time. And I truly believe it's going to stay here for a significant period of time into the future. I don't see that changing. Now, the formats might change a little bit. You know, we went from talking around a campfire to giving presentations, to video, to radio, to actually doing to TV, to then now into podcasting is kind of a rebirth of the audio format, if you will. But audio has always been a part of our culture, just the way we consume information, and I think that's because of a few main reasons. And I think that's going to hold true here, even as live video, especially, and even just video in general, becomes more prominent. We're still going to see lots of people gravitating to that simple audio format. And one of the big reasons is because audio is truly the easiest to consume medium. More than anything else, with everything else, you need to be looking at a screen of some sort. You know, if you're reading a blog post, you have to look at a screen. If you're watching a video, if you're on live, you're going to be looking at a screen. But with a podcast, an audio-based podcast, you can be walking, you can be working out, you can be doing the dishes, you can be driving in a car, you can just have it playing while you answer emails. You can have that audio in multiple different ways without actually having to focus in on that screen time. And it's just very simple to actually have that playing in the background. And like I said, it is truly one of the easiest to consume mediums. So that's a big reason why I think it's definitely going to be sticking around here for a long time. Another big reason is because it creates a connection and conversation. So even with video, even with live video or things like that, it when they're a little more produced, when they have some of those visual elements, they can actually take away from that conversation and connection piece. Whereas when you simply hear an audio podcast, especially depending on how it's produced and how it's formatted, it can really create a very solid connection. It allows you to use your imagination and kind of walk through steps a little bit more. It requires a little bit more of your brain power and your creativity to put some of these images together, to follow the story path. And that in and of itself, that a little bit more of brain activity is going to create a stronger connection with that show, with that host, with the people who are there telling that story in the audio form. So that is another big reason why I think audio podcasts are going to be sticking around for a while. And that's not even to mention that right now iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I'm probably going to do that for a long time yet, but podcasts in general have a very significant reach. There are thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people who listen to podcasts on a regular basis. So and that number is only growing. That we're continuing to see more and more people get into the podcasting world as a listener, and that is going to be a huge benefit to you as a content creator, because that means more people are going to be out there and able to find your podcast if you connect with them. So yes, absolutely, I can 100% with confidence say that podcasts are going to be sticking around for a while, and audio especially is always going to be around in some way, shape, or form. But now, how do you actually go and move forward? So what are you going to do if you are someone who has decided, yes, I agree with you, podcasting is definitely going to be around for a while. What are my next steps? How do I move forward and make sure, because the landscape is definitely changing. As we've all seen, live video is becoming a huge player now. Especially Facebook Live, they are putting more and more resources behind that platform, and more people are jumping into live streaming in general. You're likely, if you are on live right now, you know exactly what I mean. So how can you actually move forward and make sure that you are making the most of kind of this changing landscape that we have between video, live streaming, and audio? Well, I have a couple suggestions for you. The first one is to really focus in on audio as kind of that main distribution channel. An audio podcast should be seen as one of those main channels for you, because it just, for one, it lives around a lot longer than a simple live stream. And even that can even be argued with some video formats, depending on where you produce your video and where you submit that. But a live stream on Facebook is actually going to disappear pretty quickly unless you do something with that video. And so I want you to really think about an audio podcast as one of your main channels for long-term distribution. We have podcast episodes that are years old and still getting views, significant views, every single month. That is the power of a format like that. People are going to jump back and listen to that again. People are going to be searching to find those episodes and listen to those episodes. And then if you put in some sort of social media strategy that actively encourages people to do that, you're just going to continue to see results. And something like that is, we appear to have some technical difficulties. That's one of the things that can be very challenging with a live show, is that sometimes things can go crazy, and just had my camera kind of go a little messed up here. So I'm going to switch to this camera. I'm going to continue to talking to you, and I'll get that fixed either probably afterwards. We won't worry about it now. Like I was saying, this is actually another reason. One of the nice things about live video is that it can allow a little more in the moment, a little more engagement. It can be a little more authentic. But one of the frustrating things about live video is things can go wrong, especially now as we are still fairly new. Especially as more and more people are jumping onto live video for the first time, there are going to be some more of those technical issues. There's going to be a few more of those mistakes, especially if you're going things like browser-based streaming and things like that. And so here I have a gimbal that I was using to control the camera, and the gimbal just shuts down. So you get a kind of a funky view. This is the view from the camera. Camera's still rolling, but the gimbal's messed up. So we're going to be jumping back over here. And that is one of the nice things about an actual audio podcast, is it can be as loose as you would like it. It can be as kind of casual, a little more in the moment. It can definitely be live to drive type content. Or it could be, if you want it to be very professionally produced, you can go through, you can edit a ton of things on that. And obviously that is not possible with live video. So with an audio podcast, you're actually able to go through and do some of those edits to make it a little more polished, to make sure you're setting that professional foot forward when you really need to do that. Now, for the most part, I just want to say this too. I don't recommend doing a lot of editing in your podcast. I recommend jumping in there, going full steam, live to drive type content, and trying to just roll with it. Like, to be honest, especially now that since I'm going on this big long tangent, I will not be editing this when I release it as a podcast. It's just going to kind of be all there. The actual audio listeners have no idea what happened, but that's why I kind of walked through and explained a little bit of what happened. Whereas some of the video people and then especially the live stream people were able to actually see kind of that mistake happen. But now we're just going to roll with it and because that makes it a little more fun for me. So besides audio podcasting being a main distribution channel, that's really the mentality I want you to have when you're approaching it. The other thing I really want you to think about doing is to actually, if you're just starting out, if you're not used to producing consistent content, I want you to start with audio only. So if you don't currently have a podcast or produce a video or produce even a blog post on a weekly basis, your starting spot should be with audio. Or even if you are just, for whatever reason, hesitant about jumping in front of a video camera, I want you to start with audio. Audio is a phenomenal place to start. It's going to get you moving. It's going to get you used to being in front of a microphone. It's going to get you, and most importantly, it's going to get you used to being consistent, because that is a huge key. You want to have that consistency there. So if you're starting fresh, I recommend jumping to audio first, unless you're really gung-ho and excited about video. And then in that case, if you are excited about video and you're used to producing content on a consistent basis, then I say add in Facebook Live. So use Facebook Live as kind of your main distribution, or not main distribution channel, but as your way of creating content. So that should be the place you look to actually record your episodes. But again, you want to do this in a very specific way. You want to make sure it's planned out and not just a rambling video. You want to make sure it's planned out just like you would for an audio podcast or anything else. Write a script if you need to. I even have a little script here that I'm kind of following very loosely, but following nonetheless. And then you want to go through and make sure you produce it in a way that is going to be engaging for your audio listeners, especially, and even people who view back afterwards. Because if I'm stopping here to mention comments and to continue to say hi to people every couple seconds, that's going to be very distracting. It's going to be very annoying if you're not on live. Even if you're on live, sometimes that can be very annoying, because I've definitely watched a lot of those streams where people just continue to interrupt themselves to say hi to people in the comments or to comment on somebody's comment. And that doesn't get the point across, the value across that you're trying to deliver. So you want to make sure you have that content and that your teaching, your value that you're giving needs to be forefront. So jump on a live. You can do a little bit of a pre-show where then you edit that out, but then deliver your episode, mostly maybe full on straight through. You'll depend on your personal style a little bit at that point. but deliver solid content. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to actually go through and you are going to repurpose that everywhere. And so by that, I simply mean going through and repurposing that into as many places as possible. So you have your Facebook Live streamed video. Maybe you also streamed to other services. You syndicated that out. But then from there, you're going to strip out the video. You're going to download that and you're going to send a video podcast. You're going to send an audio podcast. You're going to post it on your website as a blog post with, the embedded video and audio in there. Like we do for a lot of our audio podcasts, we have the show notes page. So you're going to create that essentially. Or you can even go another level and transcribe it and repurpose that into a full-on blog post. But in addition, you're also going to send an email out to your email list, and then you're going to create social media posts around that content, really promoting one or all of those different channels in different ways. And I talk a lot about social media scheduling, how to make sure that you don't let your content die in different episodes of this podcast. I don't have the episode off the top of my head, but I'll be sure to include it in the show notes, which you can find at yourpodcastguru.com/040 for episode number 40 of The Power of Podcasting. So there you go. So you're going to want to try and repurpose this everywhere. And that's how I think you're going to be able to use all of this together the most effectively. And it's going to help make it easier on you because you're not having to try to create content for every single one of these different channels, but yet you're still getting your reach out to wherever your audience is. That's going to be the best strategy to go with, is to find how do you create content best. Ideally, if it works for you, go with Facebook Live or some other streaming service. And I like Facebook because that's where at least my audience is. That's where a lot of your audience likely is. So even just starting there and then building from there into different streaming platforms. So what are some of the common mistakes that we see people make when doing live video? Well, there are a few of them, to be honest. And one of the very first ones, we talked a little bit about this, but it's such a huge big deal, is not being consistent. You want to make sure that you are delivering content on a consistent basis. You're showing up week after week after week. And that's what I recommend. I recommend go live the same day, produce your podcast, release it to the world same day, every single week, at least one day a week. Get consistent with that, producing some sort of content every single week. That's going to be that's going to be the quickest way to build your audience, and the quickest way to build your email list is making sure that you're consistent. If you're going in spurts, you're not going to get as good of results. Or if you're just going randomly, it's just not going to work as well. So you want to make sure that you're going live consistently. So I mentioned especially, maybe it was the pre-show. I forget exactly if it was the pre-show or now. But we have a bunch of, I've been doing a little more interviews here for the Power of Podcasting Live. So I've been bringing people into the studio or Skyping them in or whatever, and live streaming these interviews with them. Well, I have a bunch more scheduled here. And in the past, what I have done is I just canceled the regular Tuesday scheduled Tuesday Power of Podcasting episode and would just do the interview on whatever day I was able to schedule with them. Well, that's not the way I'm going to be going forward with this, because it doesn't promote that consistency. It doesn't build in that habit with you, the viewers. That's ultimately what you're trying to do, is you want to build in a habit with your audience. So moving forward, what I'm going to be doing is continuing to go live on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. If I can, I'm going to try and schedule the interviews for that block period, so that way I don't have to do an interview and create content as well. But if I can't, that's perfectly fine. I will go live, we'll live stream the interview, but then that will get added into the kind of regular schedule of the podcast. So what I'm doing now is basically this podcast episode will be released this live stream will be released as a podcast episode, not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So that's kind of the schedule, the way things are right now. As we start to build in interviews, I'm going to start to kind of have a little bit more buffer period for the actual podcast episodes. So the live stream is still going to be happening every week, and if I'm ever on vacation, there just won't be a live stream one of those that day, perhaps that week, perhaps. But the podcast can continue to go out, because that's where I really, really want to build in that habit, is get people used to going back to the podcast, getting an email from me that the podcast is live, and having the content there. That is just a kind of brief look at our content strategy, my content strategy for the power of podcasting moving forward. Hopefully that helps you think about what your content strategy might look like. The other big mistake that I see people make, besides not being consistent, is just not being professional. That can be a killer. That not being professional enough is actually going to be kind of a detriment to your brand, potentially. So as podcasters, many people are used to spending significant money on mics to get better quality sound, or doing other things to help really improve their sound. But then when I see those same exact people jump to video, they're going, especially live video, they're going completely the opposite direction. They are not using high quality microphones. They have ridiculous backgrounds. Their shot looks horrible. It's off center or just weird. And for your weekly show, that is not something that you want to do. If you're really looking to dive a little bit more into live streaming, I suggest checking out livestreamingpros.com. They go through everything covered in live streaming. But one of the things I love is just their strategy of content production for live streams. So you should be having what they would consider a more professional stream once a week, like we mentioned, going live every single week. But then you can intersperse that with other random life shots or lesson kind of behind the scenes shots. And those ones should be the ones where, yeah, it's okay to have a shaky camera video or shaky iPhone video a little bit, or just more in the moment type video for those live videos. But for the other ones, it should be a little more professional. You should look to improve your sound. I'm looking to do that here. I even know right now the sound quality that we're having in our studio right now is not up to my standards. I will just admit that right away. But I also don't want to necessarily have the microphone right in my face like I normally would for a podcast episode. That's why it's kind of off to the camera. This camera angle, you still can't see it. You couldn't see it on the last one either. So I'm looking to do things to really soundproof the room, to improve the mic, to improve the audio quality, to make that better. And then I'm also looking to add different things to the mix to really improve the cameras, so it's a little more varied, so we can do different shots. Again, sorry for the messed up angle on that one. But so we can do a little bit more, some things that are a little bit more engaging to get up to that next level of professionalism. I think that's key, as you always want to be thinking about how can I present myself in a very professional, personal, yes. Your attitude, your personality should absolutely be coming through in everything that you're doing. But there's also a certain level of professionalism that is needed in order to be seen, to be taken more seriously by your audience. So that's something I'm really striving to help people in the podcasting world in general realize and get up to that kind of level. And one of the reasons I am really talking about how this whole mix of live streaming, video, and audio podcasts really come together is because I am currently in the process of working on a brand new show. And so it's completely different from the how to make money online type industry, or even the entrepreneurial industry. This brand new show is called Downtown Madison Life. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin, the capital of Wisconsin, and I live downtown. I can actually see the very, very top of the Capitol from the office here, from the studio, if the windows were open. I can actually see that now. But I love this city, and I think there's tons of stories that that need to be told about the people who make up the city. And so I was trying to think about different ways to do this. And yeah, audio podcasts would be a great way. It'd be a very simple, easy way to go out in the world, to go out in the city, get interviews with random people, and really create a very engaging show. I think that it would absolutely be possible. But I think right now we are at such an interesting place with these elements all coming together, with live streaming really starting to take off, that there are just some possibilities, some new potential directions, some really great opportunities that I didn't want to pass up, that I wanted to test the waters to see if I could make work, that I could to really see what the results could be when done right. So what I'm doing is with this show, it is going to be a lot of recorded video, but then live streamed content. So every single week, likely on Thursdays, don't hold me to that yet. We're still about a month out from actually launching into the show. But likely on Thursdays, at a specific time, there will be a live stream broadcast. That live stream, what it's going to entail is me being up there, kind of introducing things, setting stuff up. Maybe I'll have some guests in the studio, but it's going to be really going through content, kind of setting things up, and then likely many video segments will actually be brought in that were pre-recorded and all kind of strung together with the live stream content. So it's going to be a mix of pre-recorded video, live stream as a way to kind of put it all together, as a way to compile it and present it. Because I think that's going to allow for that interaction to happen, but yet still allow for the quality to be a little bit higher than I could just get with doing straight live stream. Because if it was just live stream, there's going to be people who would be very difficult to interview, that it just straight wouldn't work. But by doing a combination of this, it's going to allow us to do some very interesting things, I think. And then, so once that live stream broadcast ends, it will then be distributed on YouTube. It'll be video podcast and audio podcast, email, blog post, all that fun stuff. Afterwards, we're going to go through and distribute it out in all of those different ways. So I'm very excited about this project. I think it's going to be really cool. I haven't seen anything like it done yet, or at least like what I have in mind. So I'm going to be very interested to see what the results are. I think again, it's something I'm just passionate about, and I love kind of testing the boundaries of where we are technology-wise. So I think this is going to be really neat and really exciting to share some of these stories of people who make up the city that I love. So you can actually, and one of the reasons I'm bringing all this up is because I want you, if you're interested in this, if you're interested in seeing kind of my journey of what this all looks like, you can actually go behind the scenes. I kind of decided to do a little behind the scene sneak peek. I've been recording videos the entire time, and I'm going to be recording at least a weekly video here as things progress, as the show gets going, as we start getting some results, just being very real and very raw in the content. And you can find all that behind the scenes at yourpodcastguru.com/DML. And that stands for Downtown Madison Life, which is the name of the show. So if you want to see how this all comes together, how it works, head over to that URL, sign up with your email, and you'll get kind of all that behind the scenes information. I already have sponsors booked throughout the first month, so that's super exciting. I have interviews planned. I have episodes already kind of scripting all the episodes. We need to finish the website yet, but there's many things that need to happen here between now and when it goes live next month. But progress is definitely being made, and people seem to be pretty excited about it, which is awesome. I'm hearing lots of great things from people I know who have kind of told about it, and now I'm just getting to the point where we're starting to really announce it to the world. So if you're interested in following along in that journey, yourpodcastguru.com/DML. And lastly, if you know that, hey, I am ready for this whole podcasting thing, I want to get started with it, One of the things I hear about it so often is just people don't know how to get started. They're not sure where to start, how to launch their show. That's why I do have a very special offer for you, and you can sign up for our mini course. It is basically what I really did was took a couple sections from a couple of the modules from the Podcasting for Profits course that sells for $1,000. Took the first two stages. So really took the first two stages, the plan stage and the launch stage, and I broke them out into a mini course. So this is your opportunity to actually get the mini course. It's just a special offer. I'm only really announcing it here for anybody who is watching the live stream or listening to the podcast afterwards. But you can get that by heading to yourpodcastguru.com/get started. And really that is exactly what it is. It's everything you need to get started podcasting right away. We're going to walk you through and you'll be up and running within 45 days if you follow everything step by step. And it is a very comprehensive click-by-click type videos. We walk you through everything. I give you all the systems that we use to record podcasts, and then you're also going to get access to the members only group, that private group where I'm diving in on a regular basis, answering all the questions that you have, and doing Facebook Live and holding office hours right there in the group to really answer those questions. So again, that is yourpodcastguru.com/get started if you're interested in that at all. But thank you so much. Hopefully you've seen that, yes, there is still a place for an audio podcast, even in this video world that we've kind of found ourselves in here recently, and even in the live streaming world. There definitely will be a place for an audio show. And I think it's going to matter how you create it and then how you distribute it. In fact, I think audio is still going to, in the long run, be a bigger accelerator, be a bigger influence for your business than any other format. I think it makes complete sense to take advantage of the live stream craze, to the extra promotion that you're getting through Facebook by jumping into live streaming. I definitely think you should be taking advantage of that if you're ready and able, but don't discount the audio, because the audio has that long-term value. The audio is going to be where you create some of the best relationships with your audience. So again, my name was Nick Palkowski, and this was the Power of Podcasting Live. And you can join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find out all that information just by going to yourpodcastguru.com/live. That'll take you to the page where you can sign up to make sure to get notified when I go live for the Power of Podcasting. So until next week, it's time for you to go out there, take action, and maximize your business and your income.